I've recorded this lecture way too many times. So I really don't know. How do I hide this? You know what? No, I recorded this way too many times to even care at this point. But my name is Christina. I run a blog called Chris Med Blog on Instagram. So those who may know me, I am a senior at Iowa State. I am going to graduate soon in biology with a pre-medical track. So I made this Instagram just so anyone who is interested in pre-med or anything about the medical field, definitely go check that out. Um, just that I post my experiences, tips and tricks, and just some things for classes that I wish that I've known. Just all this stuff and recorded videos like this. So if anyone wants to take a look back at it, um, you're more than happy to do so. It'll be posted on YouTube, and I will share a link on my Instagram in a post on where these videos will be. So yeah, this is a second video that I have done. And my first video is talking about fundamentals of organic chemistry, and now in this video we're just gonna talk about starting to name structures in OChem, which I recommend starting out like this. And I made this chart just so it would be easier for memorization and helpful when we're starting to name these structures. So in my previous video, I had an abbreviation that was used in my OChem, which was OChem 331 at Iowa State. And the professor had this one abbreviation called Mary Eats Peanut Butter that helped us remember the order which the carbon chain goes. So obviously methyl had that one carbon link ethyl that has the methyl and an attachment like ethyl, so on and so forth. And then later on, you'll be seeing special structures that I would say are special structures that can be considered isopropyl, sec-butyl, tert-butyl, which I listed on the bottom of what the structures will look like. And I put a peace sign, just like help for memorization, of course. What may isopropyl look like when you do run into it, which looks like a peace sign. Tert-butyl looks like a chicken feet. So, um, if you want to use this, go right ahead. If you don't need it, that's definitely a-okay. Um, but for me, when I first took OChem and like had no clue about any of this, I definitely would love to have this printed and help me when I'm looking at doing homework or practice exams, just to prepare myself. But no, so that's the prefixes section. And then you have your going to your parent chain, and we're going to talk about how you name your parent chain and the longest parent chain, and how these prefixes of these parent chain goes, which will help with the suffix and how you name it at the end. Um, so you have A and E, and which is the one carbon. So take my pen. This is considered an alkane. E, alkene, which is a double carbon attachment. So you would have some structure that would look like that, so on and so forth. I just wanted to focus these main two just because they were like very um abbreviated or repeated in class all semester for OChem 1. And then during later on in the course, you're gonna see pre-suffixes like these, um, esters, amides, aldehydes. I highlighted the ones you're gonna see well, bolded the ones that you're gonna see often. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I would just memorize these structures, their names, just so it's easier and faster when you're naming these chemical compounds, and I will make this printable on my blog page, so don't worry about that. So moving on, we're gonna skip this one and go right ahead into how you name it, which bookkeeping rule things first I want to get out before we go straight into how to name it. So you're gonna have more than one substitute when in naming it. Say I had an extra methyl here in the structure. So when you're naming your structure, you want to make sure that first that you had all your substituents and that you labeled and numbered from lowest to highest, substituted from where you're starting that parent chain. Um, and what I'm saying, what there's like more than one, you're going to have to take in count for the same structures because you're like not gonna just be like, oh, you have two of the same structure. I could just put one. No, you cannot do that. So you have to take account for that. So say I have two methyls in it, I'm just gonna make sure that I have this prefix in the front of di, meaning that we have two methyls within that structure. Um, Again, listing alphabetical order, number order from lowest to highest. Also with later in lecture, you probably like later in the semester, and I have cyclic rings, benzene rings. I don't want to focus on that right now because I just want to get through the basics just so you know how to do it, and then we can get into more complicated stuff. But you're gonna have things like cyclo as a prefix, and then we're gonna also keep in mind that structures that I say would look like this, that have where in alkenes specifically. So we're gonna make sure not alkanes, alkenes, that we will have to label if it's E or C. And what I mean by same size or different side would be yes, they had split in the middle, and we can see the priorities in the BR on the periodic table is higher than CL. So whatever, this has higher priority first and then second on the carbon, so on and so forth. And we're gonna highlight this again. As you can see, if you split the structure down in the middle evenly, that they're on the same side, so this would be considered E, same, while this one is right across from each other, so this will be Z, and it's different. And this normally will be labeled in the prefix first with a dash, so on and so forth. So housekeeping rules, just keep in mind. But now we're going to focus on what the basic rules are on how to label and number your structures. So in doing so, we're going to find the longest parent chain, and how I do it is we're going to take a pencil pen. We're going to count for to see what would the longest chain be. So say I want to go from this to this. So we're going to label from the end to the top. So 1, 2, and 3. Another possibility you could do would be going from this point end to this. So we're going to start with 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, it does get messy, and I recommend when you're on exam that when you're finding it, maybe draw it in the corner, do it with the 1, 2, 3, whatever, not, or just erase it, try again till you find the longest parent chain. But so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, which eliminates the first option because that's only 3 chain, and now obviously we have 4 chain, which is higher. And then we could go just straight across, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4, which I rather choose this option just because it's simpler. And also, too, we have to take into account that this is a substitute tint. I'm just going to call it substitute because I spent 5 tries trying to pronounce it, and we're not recording this again. So, some final decision that our longest parent chain has to be 4 as our chain. So, check mark. We just did that. Find all substituents, and which I was talking about prior in that chart, and I do recommend those to print it out. But in that chart, we have Mary eats peanut butter. So let's go find the structures that are attached to our parent chain. Obviously, bingo, we found it. So this structure that is pointing out is a methyl, which in our prefix of Mary eats peanut butter is first. So we're going to circle this, and we're going to keep in mind that it is lying on that carbon chain at the substituent of 2. Say you have more than one structure sticking out, and say I had one sticking out here, then we obviously circle it, keep in mind of this, keep in mind of how it's labeled. So when I'm saying from lowest to highest, when you're numbering it or labeling it, naming, whatnot, it's gonna go 2, 3, so on and so forth. So, I'm gonna take this pen again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Circle this one because we have that. Do we have it more than once? No. If we did, we're gonna say it had an extra methyl. Yes. Then you put di in front, but we only have one. So we found it. So last part to think about in the chart are suffix. Is this gonna be an alkane, alkene, aldehyde, so on and so forth, which I recommend remembering what those structures look like because it goes faster when naming structures. So this straight carbon line, sorry, there's no other carbon attachment, double carbon attachments. So this is an alkane. I'll put it right here. You ugly handwriting, probably can't read it. It's all good, because whatever. Alkane. So, we now have that structure. And then we also have that substituent labeled, where it's located, all the fun stuff. And now I would recommend, before starting to go with her name, that we know that in the suffix, this is butane. So we have our suffix of an, butyl, meaning 4 attachments. Yeah. So yeah, that we know it's alkane. We know that the suffix has to be A and E. We know that the parent chain has 4, and that's why we have Mary eats peanut butter, butane, butyl. And we have our substituent that we found from lowest to highest because there's no other substituent. This is the only one that is at the mark of the parent chain of 2, and then the structure itself is a methyl. So now we're going to start labeling it. So we're gonna put the substituent first, and it is at the position of 2. So we're gonna write 2, and then we're gonna do comma methyl, and then we're gonna do the suffix ending part of the parent chain, which is butane, making sure to double check that now you have everything. So that's why I write everything out first, to make sure that I have all the stuff I need that is included in the name. So Did I include the number order of the substitute? Yes. Did I include the structure itself? It's a methyl. Yes. Did I include what the parent chain is and the proper ending of what the structure is itself, which I did. So our final name of the structure should be 2-methyl butane. Which prior I have different structures that we can look at, but this is the structure, keep in mind, that we had as a practice, and I can show you why this person had incorrectly named it wrong. And for me, yes, for me, I'll show you why I had it slightly wrong. This is why you have to be very attentive of when you're writing these structures, because one little mistake can like throw off everything. But this person put pentane, meaning that, yes, the ANE means that it's just the one flat single carbon chain, but pentane meaning that it should have a parent chain of 5. So when we counted prior, we only counted, say if we went this way, whatever, 3, we went this way, it's 4, and then we counted the longest chain going straight in its 4. So it wouldn't make sense why it would be pentane. So that's why we have butane. So this is the incorrect naming only on their behalf. But if you look at what they did, is that they have a dash mark and I put a comma, which is my mistake. But it makes sense because comma, you're listing the order of the numbers from lowest to highest of the structure, and then you get into the naming part, which has to be separate in its own vicinity column. Saying that I should have put a dash towards mine. So I'll erase this part. Put a dash. So now it's 2-methylbutane. And now I have correctly labeled it. And now they have not correctly labeled it. So we're gonna ignore it. But here are some like other examples of structures that you're just gonna see, and I would recommend maybe like covering this up, printing this out, which I'll print, and I had the link cited at the end of this PowerPoint, but I recommend printing out examples and then going in and like practicing yourself of finding the longest parent chain and then going and figuring out what's circled structure wise. So as you can see, this looks like 2 butyls. Wait, end of it. But well, let's see, we got isopropyl, got an ethyl right here, so and so forth. But I will do this because to be honest, no offense to this person who made this website, but I do not trust if they labeled it correctly. So I'm gonna go in and label it and then post the answer key and then post a blank one on my Instagram, and I will link it on YouTube to my post, that in case you want to practice, definitely go ahead because I already found one mistake. But it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes in life, and like it's good to have someone double check it. So, you know, no big deal. Anyways, here's the 2 links to the references of what I got these images from, following the rules, all that fancy stuff. So anything that I think it would be printable would be helpful for those studying. I will print out, but otherwise, thank you for watching.